Starting this weekend, Biden cabinet members and senior administration officials will fan out across the country to talk about the president's infrastructure investments and domestic agenda, issues that, of course, were front and center during his State of the Union address last night.
Thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. If any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know.
And that man that you saw right there joins me now, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Morning. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So, Mr. Secretary, your assessment of the president's speech last night, it seems to have been even acknowledged by our Republican guests that he met the bar that was set in terms of energy level. What did you feel in the room, and how would you characterize it?
You know, we were over at the White House before heading to the Capitol for the State of the Union, and some of the president's aides who had been involved in drafting the speech were clearly excited about it, felt like it was going to be a great night. And sure enough, in the chamber, the atmosphere was electric. The president displayed, I think, the kind of strength and clarity and command that is expected from a president, especially at a pivotal time like this. Obviously, I was especially thrilled to hear him put in perspective the achievements that have taken place on the infrastructure front, but really across the board on issue after issue. He laid out both achievements and an agenda for the future that have strong support from the American people, and challenged congressional Republicans to shift course and back him up on those ideas, whether it is a tax code that rewards work, not wealth, whether it is getting resources to secure the southern border, whether it is protecting the right to choose. It really was a great night for the president.
Mr. Secretary, the House Speaker, who of course we saw react throughout the president's speech behind him, spoke to reporters after the speech, and he characterized it this way. Watch.
Well, we were disappointed. I mean, look, usually in a State of the Union, you have at least segments of it that are bipartisan, where we can unify and agree on things. President Biden gave none of that tonight. It was a completely hyper-partisan speech. I don't know how else to describe it. It was a campaign speech, and a pretty vitriolic one at that.
What do you say to Republican critics who say it was divisive?
Well, the Speaker's comments are literally false, because the president talked about a bipartisan infrastructure, a bipartisan border bill, his bipartisan unity agenda on confronting things like fentanyl and cancer. As a matter of fact, pretty much everything, as far as I recall, that the president mentioned is something probably 60-70% of Americans or more would support. Now, it's true that he certainly pressed congressional Republicans on, for example, their deeply unpopular proposal to cut taxes for the wealthy and corporations. But while that might be an issue that has strong partisan lines in Congress, out in the country, most Americans, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, disagree with congressional Republicans' agenda to cut taxes for the wealthy, and agree with the president that it is wrong for billionaires and our biggest corporations to be paying a lower tax rate than firefighters and teachers.
Mr. Secretary, the other issue that dominated in some ways the evening was, of course, immigration, with it being something that Democrats, polls tell us, voters trust Republicans, and specifically the former President Trump over current President Biden on this issue. Biden himself seemed to take that head on when he was confronted by Marjorie Taylor Greene along the aisles. I want to show you that moment, and then I'll ask you about it. Watch.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Are you comfortable with the use of the term illegal in this context?
Look, I think the president was responding to what was being hurled at him from the House floor and responding, as he characteristically does, with compassion to a tragic case that shouldn't be used as a political football. But I think more broadly, what he did when it came to immigration and the border was remind Congress and Americans that even if there isn't total agreement, even a lot of people who might not agree with our administration's approach, there was bipartisan consensus that most Americans would support and that conservative and Democratic members of Congress supported, that is currently being blocked in Congress, that would make a difference. Maybe wouldn't fix everything, but would improve things at the border. And he laid out that if that got to his desk, he would sign something that includes tough compromises that neither side's base might love, but that would make a concrete difference at the southern border. And I think it's the difference between having a problem that you mention or invoke or use and having a problem that you actually seek to solve, which is President Biden's approach to the border issue.
Can I ask you, as we wrap up here, just to put on your actual day job hat for a second, because we've been showing everyone this morning this very kind of alarming video of this tire falling off a United plane yesterday, landing in a parking lot and crushing some cars. There also has been, an audit of Boeing that has identified, multiple non-compliance issues and gaps. Would you feel safe? Should Americans feel safe boarding Boeing planes right now?
I board a plane every few days, and I know that I'm safe because of the work that FAA does, the work that flight crews do, and so many others. That is the reason why flying on an airplane in America is the safest form of travel in the world. But what happened in this footage and several things that have happened with Boeing aircraft are completely unacceptable. And it's why the FAA has had boots on the ground at Boeing facilities, conducted an audit and a deep dive. A few days ago, our FAA administrator, Mike Whitaker, sat down with Boeing's leadership, gave them 90 days to come up with a comprehensive plan that will speak to these issues that we really are concerned about, that we're seeing when it comes to quality control, when it comes to processes. Boeing needs to demonstrate what they are going to do to fix these issues, and we will not let them increase their production until they satisfactorily do so.
Yeah, I will say the number of near misses on runways and in the air and other places, certainly, I'm glad that we're not covering actual misses and injuries for the most part. People have been safe, but it is definitely concerning. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.